Hey guys, Neil here. I'm a Sydney-based marketer and I've got my own marketing agency in Sydney. Just wanted to first and foremost welcome you to the channel. If you're new, do hit the like and subscribe button below. It helps us to bring some amazing content to you guys. And to the existing subscribers, welcome back. Today we're looking at Steve Jobs' Think Different ad campaign. As a marketer, I really wanted to be inspired, so I'm watching some classic ads and I wanted to share the journey with you. So let's dive into this video. Let's see what Steve has to say about the Think Different ad. We'll go through the ad itself in the end and I'll give you my 2 cents as well. So stay tuned and let's go.
Marketing is about values. This is a very complicated world. It's a very noisy world. And we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No company is.
So to open with, Steve Jobs is already setting up the stage, addressing what is the problem in today's world, saying that it's quite noisy. That means there's a lot of competition out there. People's retention, the memories are very low unless you do something remarkable to stand out in that noisy world. And he opens it up by saying marketing is about people's values. So people are driven by 2 things that are values and beliefs. And values are mainly things like integrity or honesty that people actually value. So if you appeal to those values of people, that means you've made a good advertisement because you're resonating with that person. All right, let's keep going.
We have to be really clear on what we want them to know about us. Now, Apple, fortunately, is one of the half a dozen best brands in the whole world. Right up there with Nike, Disney, Coke, Sony. It is one of the greats of the greats, not just in this country, but all around the globe.
So sets Apple up to be with branding by association with all these other brands like Nike, Disney, because he is obviously the CEO of Apple and he wants to put his best foot forward.
But even a great brand needs investment and caring if it's going to retain its relevance and vitality. And the Apple brand has clearly suffered from neglect in this area in the last few years.
So this is during the time when Steve Jobs was away, so he's not missing an opportunity to bash his predecessor and saying how they were neglecting this area in the last few years.
The way to do that is not to talk about speeds and feeds. It's not to talk about MIPS and megahertz. It's not to talk about why we're better than Windows.
So basically, Steve Jobs is saying that don't worry about the features, and don't worry about the nitty-gritty. That's not what an advert should convey. The advert is not about the competition or why we're better than the competition. That's not a good way of leveraging this ad strategy.
The dairy industry tried for 20 years to convince you that milk was good for you. It's a lie, but they tried anyway. And the sales were going like this. And then they tried Got Milk, and the sales are going like this. Got Milk doesn't even talk about the product. Matter of fact, it focuses on the absence of the product.
The absence of the product. Sometimes an absence is as important as presence. It's called having that space around yourself.
Best example of all, and one of the greatest jobs of marketing the universe has ever seen is Nike. Remember, Nike sells a commodity. They sell shoes.
Steve Jobs is talking about an example of Nike and how an amazing experience Nike makes you feel. When you think about Nike, you don't even think about shoes, although that's what they're selling.
Yet when you think of Nike, you feel something different than a shoe company. In their ads, as you know, they don't ever talk about the product. They don't ever tell you about their air soles and why they're better than Reebok's air soles. What does Nike do in their advertising? They honor great athletes and they honor great athletics. That's who they are. That's what they are about.
So this is what Nike has done really well, is leveraging some amazing athletes. I mean, right from Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, they partnered up with these guys, and those partnerships made it possible for Nike to be perceived as a brand that only associates with top talent. So that's why when you think about Nike, you think about Jordan, these brands are iconic because it makes you feel a certain way.
Spend a fortune on advertising. You'd never know it. You'd never know it. So When I got here, Apple just fired their agency. We were doing a competition with 23 agencies that, 4 years from now would have picked one. And we blew that up, and we we hired Chiat, the ad agency that I was fortunate enough to work with years ago. We created some award-winning work, including the commercial voted the best ad ever made in 1984 by advertising professionals. And we started working about 8 weeks ago.
Basically, he's saying he fired the existing ad agency and he started an ad agency that they were working together in 1984 that produced another iconic commercial.
The question we asked was, our customers want to know who is Apple and what is it that we stand for? Where do we fit in this world?
So these are some of the most important marketing questions you can answer. What do our customers want? Where do we fit into this world? If you can answer those questions, you'll have such amazing clarity about who your audience is, who you are, and how you can make other people, your audience, your target audience, perceive yourself.
What we're about isn't making boxes for people to get their jobs done, although we do that well. We do that better than almost anybody in some cases. But Apple's about something more than that. Apple, at the core, its core value is that we believe that people with passion can change the world for the better. That's what we believe.
So he's talking about Apple's core value, which is that people with passion can change the world. Now, I think, where does this value come from? I think it comes from top down. I think Steve Jobs himself had that value, so he passed it on to the team, and then the team built a culture around that value. So the value is actually, people who are passionate are actually going to change the world. And this is somehow associating Steve's personality, his own persona, and bringing it into the Apple brand.
And we've had the opportunity to work with people like that. We've had an opportunity to work with people like you, with software developers, with customers who have done it in some big and some small ways. And we believe that in this world, people can change it for the better.
So coming back to what I was saying about two drivers of a human being are beliefs and values. So Steve Jobs just said that they believe that they can change the world. So they believe in their values, and then which is that people who think they are crazy enough to change the world, they can actually change the world.
And so what we're going to do in our first brand marketing campaign in several years is to get back to that core value. A lot of things have changed. The market's a totally different place than it was a decade ago. And Apple's totally different, and Apple's place in it is totally different. And believe me, the products and the distribution strategy and the manufacturing are totally different, and we understand that. But values and core values, those things shouldn't change.
So Steve Jobs is saying that his values and core values and the core values of the company are still the same, despite of how many changes the market's gone through. The entire production system's changed, the manufacturing is changed, the whole company has changed a lot, but the core value still stays the same.
Things that Apple believed in at its core are the same things that Apple really stands for today. And so we wanted to find a way to communicate this. And what we have is something that I am very moved by.
So he's getting his own beliefs, his passion from his personal experience into the culture of the company, into the products, and even into the advertisements that we're about to see shortly. And this was the greatness of Steve Jobs and how passionate he was about his own business, about Apple. And it showed in everything that they did.
It honors those people who have changed the world. Some of them are living, some of them are not. But the ones that aren't, as you'll see, you know that if they ever used a computer, it would have been a Mac. And the theme of the campaign is think different. It's the people, honoring the people who think different and who move this world forward. And it is what we are about. It touches the soul of this company. So I'm going to go ahead and roll it, and I hope that you feel the same way about it I do.
Okay, let's see the ad.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see
Iconic
things.
figures, scientists.
They're not fond of rules, and they have no
Musicians.
respect for the status quo. You can quote them,
Rule breakers.
disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see
Connected
them
with the whole
as the
humanity.
crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So wow, that's such a moving piece of advertising. I mean, it's one of the greatest ads ever created, and it does that because, again, it taps into a human desire. If you're, an entrepreneur, and it's definitely appealing to a certain demographic, people who see themselves as rebels, as misfits, people who want to challenge the status quo. Using words like that, really tapping in to what the target audience truly believes about themselves and the world, and being able to convey it in a way that's so easy to understand, but at the same time so moving, as Steve Jobs said. So it's very iconic piece of ad for those reasons, and it was Apple's one of the most successful ads that they ever did for this very reason. And Steve Jobs, again, despite of the ad agency not getting as much credit, I think they deserve as much credit for this ad as Steve Jobs himself. So again, tying all of this stuff together and summarizing everything, the true reason why this ad was such a success was because it was able to connect the universal human values, the human beliefs about themselves, and then showcase it in such an amazing, easy to understand ad, which had historical figures, the greatest of all times, and really that association of Apple with those people like Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. or John Lennon, iconic people, the legends of the legends, Muhammad Ali. In a subtle way, Apple almost connected themselves with these people, and that was the genius of Steve Jobs, and it's branding by association. So if you like this kind of reviews or reactions, whatever you want to call it, do let me know. I really enjoyed doing this one. I might do a few more. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. It helps, and definitely comment below with your thoughts. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me today. My name is Neil, and I'm a marketer that's based in Sydney. See you.